Michigan Family Wellness, episode 26.
Here at Michigan Family Wellness, we believe chiropractic care and nutritional-based therapies are a foundational part of a healthy family lifestyle. No matter where you're at in the mitten, having a family is such an exciting time of life. So instead of feeling overwhelmed by stress, fatigue, and responsibilities with the kids, we invite you to become part of this empowering community to create happy, healthy families. By providing engaging interviews and practical applications, Dr. Wallner cultivates family health by equipping our listeners with the tools they need to elevate wellness in their own family. Dr. Wallner passionately serves the Michigan community at his chiropractic and nutrition-based practice, where he specializes in pregnancy, pediatrics, and family wellness care. And now, here's your host, Dr. Kyle Wallner.
Good day, Michigan families, and welcome to another empowering episode of Michigan Family Wellness. I'm your host, Dr. Kyle, and I am the Family Wellness Chiropractor at the Michigan Family Wellness Clinic here in Livonia, Michigan. Today, we have a great interview with Amy, packed with practical applications and valuable insights. But before we get to today's interview, the Michigan Family Wellness Clinic is all about helping you and your family. We're family-centered here, and when you're the single parent or the stressed-out spouse just struggling to get through each day and take care of the kids and advance your career and make sure the fridge has food and the house is picked up and on and on and on, we're here for you. I help most of my patients with resiliency, and resiliency is equipping you with the strength to adapt to the stress in your life. Sometimes we do have stressors that need to go, whether they be something environmental, an abusive relationship, a terrible job, or just the nutrient-deficient food that we eat. Other times, the stress isn't necessarily going away, but the way that our body is adapting to that stress is not sustainable. I help my patients increase their resiliency and equip them with that strength to adapt to the changes and stress in their life. The saying, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, is absolutely true. And that's why I have committed this podcast and the Michigan Family Wellness Clinic to serving this community through integrity, certainty, and authenticity. You deserve the best doctor-patient experience and the best results in the shortest amount of time. So if there was a way to elevate your health, your family wellness, and resiliency, would you be interested? If this message is resonating with you, or if you would like to start a conversation about your specific health situation, head on over to MichiganFamilyWellness.com and you can actually send me an email, schedule a complimentary phone conversation, or head on over to Facebook and send me a Facebook message. All right, so let's introduce Amy Lanci before we jump into today's interview. Amy Lanci is a certified holistic health coach and certified personal trainer who helps busy and guilt-driven women lose their first 10 pounds by focusing on their emotional eating and mindset. After struggling with her own weight for 20 years, Amy finally reached her highest weight of 203 pounds at the age of 24 when she was also diagnosed with fatty liver disease. Within 5 years of finding love, she made the necessary dietary and lifestyle changes to lose 62 pounds and got her liver back to normal levels. Now she is on a mission to help women find their own path to self-care with a host of coaching techniques that range from practical tips to actively listening to her clients' emotional journeys. Additionally, she is a HuffingtonPost contributor and recently published her first article, 4 Ways Being Grateful is Holding You Back from Success. Amy was born and raised in the Los Angeles area and moved to San Diego, where she earned her bachelor's degree in ecology from the University of California, San Diego. Now she lives there with her husband, toddler, and 2 dogs. All right, families, let's dive into today's interview. Welcome, families, to the interview portion of today's podcast. My guest on the show today is Amy Lanci. Amy, welcome to the podcast. It's so great to have you.
Happy to be here.
You know, I said this last week on the MFW podcast, but I'll say it again here because it really is remarkable just the way that technology can connect and engage people today. Getting in touch with Amy, actually through a mutual Facebook community, I truly am amazed and, ultimately grateful because really the thing is now the Michigan Family Wellness community can benefit from Amy's experiences and Amy's unique perspective where previously that really may not have been, plausible or possible. So really, I truly thank you, Amy, for being on the show today.
Oh, no, thank you for having me on the show. I'm looking forward to it.
So I've just told our listeners a little bit about you as the professional. Tell us more about you as the person, and what does family look like for you?
So family basically to me is whoever you feel like you belong to, and it can be like a whole melting pot of people. Like for instance, like I am Chinese American. My husband is from a Polish background, and so our daughter is basically an illustration of that. And I say that that goes for any dynamic of any family, whether like you have a single parent, if you have like two gay parents,
Mm-hmm.
or whether or not you have like divorced parents. I say like that is, you know what, as long as you guys are happy, that is my picture of family. And so, oh, sorry, I was just gonna add, I have a daughter and two fur babies too.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I just celebrated my 4-year anniversary yesterday, actually, and just so
Oh,
thankful.
congratulations!
Thank you. Yeah, I just, so grateful and thankful for, the gift of family, really value and treasure it. And I agree with what you're saying, especially that diversity, those cultures coming together. You said you being Chinese American, that's just really beautiful. So, I really applaud you guys for that. Now, again, with it being Michigan Family Wellness, do you have any insights or, have you ever been to Michigan? I know you're out there in California, but is there anything there for you?
Well, I personally have never been to Michigan because I was born and grew up in LA, and I'm living in San Diego now. But my husband's family has very deep roots in Michigan. My in-laws, they grew up in Dearborn and then lived in Battle Creek, and then they moved out here. And my husband has other family in Ann Arbor, and I have a cousin that's going to Michigan University right now. So,
Awesome.
yeah, so I do want to visit one day. I just haven't been there yet. Oh, and my husband says that he's very fond of the Henry Ford Museum.
Fantastic. Honestly, Amy, everything you just mentioned is right here in our backyard, in the southeast Michigan area. Many of our listeners know and my patients know that I'm actually originally from Ann Arbor, Pioneer High School, born and raised, all that. Henry Ford Museum, just some fantastic things going on here in southeast Michigan. So I appreciate that as well.
Hmm.
So, Amy, during our pre-chat, you were sharing part of your story with me, and that's honestly one of the reasons why I wanted to bring you on the podcast here. You do have this compelling story, and I just wanted you to go ahead and just walk us through that. Share with us your experiences and the changes you made and the things that you did to kind of take you where you are with health coaching today.
All right. So when I was younger, I actually used to be very skinny. I was actually a very picky eater. And then came around second grade, I discovered food, but then I think I went the other extreme. I ate too much, and I started gaining some weight. Not a lot. I had just enough for a little pot belly. And then as time went on, the weight gain just kept coming on, and I also had dips too in my weight gain, but basically it was more or less an upward trajectory from throughout elementary school, throughout middle school, and throughout high school. And I was definitely that generation where like a snack was like a medium-sized bag of hot Cheetos and a 16-ounce bottle of Coca-Cola. Like that
Wow.
was my
Yeah.
snack in high school. And yeah, I mean, I was active too. I was on swim team. I was on water polo. I was in orchestra, and I was in the newspaper. I was editor in chief of my newspaper staff. So I mean, I was like so busy in high school, running around after all these things that the weight just kept coming on. And at the same time, I made friends easily with boys, but I was never I never had too much luck with dating guys.
Mm-hmm.
I was more like the sisterly figure per se, especially since I was very much into like sci-fi and anime and like geeky things that I could definitely relate to the guys in my high school with. But in terms of dating, I found like it got to the point where no one was asking me out, and I honestly thought that you had to be skinny. You had to be a skinny girl to get the nice guys,
Mm-hmm.
or even to get a guy to ask you out. So, that really weighed on my confidence, and I really honestly believed that. Like I thought like okay, if I just get down to this certain weight, then that perfect guy is going to come through the door and he's going to notice me and we're going to live happily ever after. And so you can see how this weighed on my confidence. And so, I just continued with my eating and all through college. I mean, I became more comfortable with myself, but then, again, like I said, the freshman 15
Mm-hmm.
continued, and then the weight gain continued, and then by the age of 24, I reached my peak at 203 pounds, and I was diagnosed with fatty liver, the non-alcoholic kind.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually remember going in for my first liver biopsy, and it was a little scary because I didn't want to tell my parents because I was kind of ashamed, and so I basically went in alone. My friend was going to pick me up, and I remember the doctor having to do the ultrasound on my liver before she stuck the needle in for the biopsy, and she pointed to the screen and she said, "Oh, you see how white that is? Yeah, that's all the fat in your liver." And I thought, at the age of 24, that gosh, like I thought this kind of stuff didn't happen till at least I was going to be at least 40
Right.
or 50. I thought I would have a couple more decades before this caught up with me, but inevitably it didn't. And I mean, sorry, inevitably it did. And it was just one of those things where I was very hard on myself. And eventually, though, I had to just kind of move on and just kind of like be monitored by my regular medical doctors. I went to a naturopath on my own to just kind of, get her input. And so I got some supplements, and she really said amp up the greens. And that was going on. And then at the same time, I was at that point in my life where I was like, you know what, I'm ready for a relationship that will be sustainable, someone that will love me for me
Mm-hmm.
and in my own terms, because I was also an introvert. I was also very shy. Anything outside of watching a movie with friends, like I didn't, that like no social activities outside of that. So I signed up for an online dating site, and 3 months later, I was matched up with a man, and we got off right. We got along right off the bat, and we have been married now for almost 5 years. Been together.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We've been together for almost 8 years, and the thing was that when I met him, I was still 203 pounds. I mean, I was at my heaviest and I was at my sickest, and he still loved me, and I didn't have to be skinny, and that really shook my mindset. Like I didn't, like I honestly like that was really a belief that I thought was the truth back in high school and even through college. And the moment that we fell in love, like that really just, kind of just threw me outside the box that I was in and made me realize, like, you know what, like, that's not my truth. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's not the truth. It's first of all not the truth and not my truth.
Right.
So then when I met him, not only like things started to improve, like I wanted to spend more time with him, and so like we went hiking because that was something we like to do, something I didn't do enough of on my own. But we went hiking on our dates, and we even like walked a lot because he liked to walk just to like had conversations. So I was like, okay, I'll just join you. And then he had a gym membership. I was like, hey, I want to spend more time with you. Let's go to the gym together. So we did. And then in the meanwhile, I was doing my own due diligence and studying for nutrition, because like I was like, okay, what's a carb versus a whole grain, and like, how many like how can I incorporate more veggies into my diet? So I was doing that on the side too. And then in addition to that, like, I started to go to sleep earlier. Like I used to like stay up to midnight with my friends because my friends were all night owls. And then but I would still wake up at like 6 in the morning the next day for work or classes. So then I started going to bed at like 9 or 10 o'clock instead. And so, sleeping more, moving more, taking care of myself more, and then feeling happier. And then
Mm-hmm.
even without trying, within the first 6 months of knowing my husband, or the man that would be my husband, I lost 10 pounds without even trying.
Wow.
So, so just like my life is a testament that when you find that one thing to like shake your mindset,
Right.
to really show you that taking care of yourself is worth it, um, that all these things can like just fall into place, that yeah, so can the physical stuff too.
Absolutely. Well, Amy, I really appreciate your level of vulnerability here. I think that's what people are really looking for and what they resonate with most. And I just think, it's such a compelling story, and you're honestly not alone. I mean, you're definitely someone who's, comfortable with sharing their story and comfortable with, putting yourself out there, which I really appreciate. But here's the thing. I really feel like there are tons of people out there listening who can identify exactly with what you're experiencing. It may not be non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. It may be something related to, excess weight or anything like that, or even you mentioned those emotional components related to dating or relationships. But honestly, I think there's a lot of people out there who can relate with exactly what you're experiencing and describing. And I think you have an inspirational story in the sense that you can overcome those things. You don't have to be defined by, like you were saying, your identity doesn't have to come from, your relationships or from how much you weigh or, different things like that. So I guess I just kind of want to circle back and touch a little bit on, you mentioned the emotional components, during that time when you were a little bit younger and you were getting this diagnosis of, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, how did you feel during that time? Like, was it scary for you? Did you feel alone? Kind of talk us through that.
Well, first of all, it was kind of like started with a little frustration because my doctor saw my triglycerides were still high despite my cholesterol going down. And so we had to, like, the doctors would say, hey, like, we need you to come in and do another blood test just to double check this, AST, ALT level, which they didn't actually tell me what it was at first. They just said we need to double check that. And then, I went in a few times, double checked with my blood, and it was just a lot of back and forth. So there was frustration there. And then finally getting the diagnosis and not really knowing what that meant, and then having to be referred to get a liver biopsy and then see a liver specialist was it was kind of mind-blowing, and I just couldn't even like comprehend that this was actually happening. And at the same time, like, I honestly, like, I think eventually I got to a point where I could not believe I did this to myself, and I honestly thought I had time on my side. And it did feel lonely, especially since, I had other friends who were young, just as young as me, or just slightly younger, and they were doing the exact same things, but they didn't have the excess weight, they didn't have the liver disease, they didn't have, like, as far as they told me, the doctors were like, oh, you were like the bill of health, and then there's a little part of me was like, ah.
Right.
Like, I wish I was you. So there was a little bit of jealousy there. So there was all sorts of emotions going on. So,
well, yeah, the reason I go there is
yeah.
just because I think a lot of people kind of discredit or downplay the significance of, our neuro-emotional state, our psychosomatic functioning, and how that plays such a critical role in our health. Actually, if listeners are curious to learn more about this, you can actually go back to Michigan Family Wellness, episode 22, I believe, where we discuss the prevalence of body dysmorphic disorder. Now, I'm not saying that Amy experienced that herself, but, when you're bombarded by the media and just our culture, our society, where, women's waists have to be a certain shape and, your body has to look like this. And we even go for men as well. There's more research to show that men are experiencing this where, you need to have these huge muscles or have this, specific chiseled jaw, things like this, and then they look at themselves in the mirror and they don't see that, and that can create these dysfunctional and these honestly oftentimes irrational thoughts and reflexes that just because you don't look like the people on TV doesn't mean that you're less valuable, or your identity doesn't have to come from that. So that's why I just wanted to get a little bit more insight there into your experiences. I like the way you phrase it on your website, actually. If you go to Amy's website, which she'll tell us about later, but if you read the About Her section, she says, messed up big time and too young for this. Can you tell us more about that, Amy?
Yeah, no, I mean, it was just, as I was saying, it was just, I felt like, I had no one else to blame but myself.
Mm-hmm.
And because I also already had a lower value of self-worth and my confidence, was, going with it too, I just beat myself up big time. And I honestly felt like, I was having kind of a breakdown in like slow motion.
Mm-hmm.
And because I didn't want to tell my family because I didn't want to worry them. I made myself even more alone than probably needed to. And I did tell some friends, only like a select few. And because there was a little bit of shame there too, because
Right.
it was almost as if admitting I had a problem. I mean, and it was a problem, but it was just more just admitting that, this was something that I needed to correct. And you know what? The doctors also told me that you can maybe get over it. Like
Mm-hmm.
it was never like you can definitely for sure get over this. It was
Oh,
just more
wow.
like, yeah, it was always kind of just like, well, you need to lose weight, and no one really truly gets over fatty liver.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of that attitude from the doctors, which I mean, I appreciate the medical help I did get. I'm glad they did monitor me when I did, but it was also just like, I needed that support. And because I was kind of full of that shame, I kind of limited the support I could have had. Um, and because I just didn't, because to say it out loud to other friends and family, like, just made it even more real.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And like my story continued on that after losing another 20 pounds with more hard work on my end, uh, my liver levels went completely back to normal. Um,
That's amazing.
and yeah, and I continued to lose another 30 pounds over the next few years, and then I eventually lost 62 pounds over 5 years over like a lot of slow dietary lifestyle changes. It was not the
Mm-hmm.
fastest weight loss, but it was the most sustainable one
But it's
for
so
me.
impactful, and I think it's so significant. I mean, one of the people that I like to read, Jim Collins, he talks about, the flywheel analogy, where essentially it can be very difficult to get something started, but essentially once you do get something started and you work on it, whether it be weight loss or a relationship or a career, and you're diligent and you're consistent and you're congruent with it, essentially over time, that metaphorical flywheel begins to spin a little faster, and then before you know it, you barely have to touch the thing and it's already moving in a nice, consistent, well-oiled machine, essentially, just to use an analogy there. Now, you mentioned naturopathic. You had seen your naturopathic doctor and you were working with some alpha-lipoic acid, to help with your liver. What other things did you do? Did you try any chiropractic? Was that part of your health journey at all? Did you see an acupuncturist? Was it just the naturopathic, or was it a collaboration of different things that really played a role in your health journey?
So, yeah, so I did see the naturopath, and so in addition to the green supplements and the alpha lipoic acid and even the fish oil she gave me, I did see a chiropractor because I got into a car accident when I was 18 years old, which wasn't a terrible car accident, but it was enough to give me whiplash, and because it did not, my spine was not pinching a nerve. I didn't even notice this whiplash was there until I started realizing that when I was walking in a straight line with people next to me that I knew, that I was running into them, that I didn't realize I was not walking in a straight line.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, so then I went to see a chiropractor, and then they did an x-ray, and they found that, yeah, my neck was out of place. So then ever since then, I've been seeing a chiropractor like, I think it started off as like once a week, and then it was like once every few weeks, and now it's maybe once every few months. So it has
Mm-hmm.
gotten better over time. But I definitely have found that it has definitely helped me with my movement and make sure that, anytime I work out, that I am able to have the full range of movement, and that, even when I go to work and I look down at the desk or something, like just that I'm readjusted so that I can sit up taller and my posture's good. So I definitely the significance of a chiropractor in my life has been great.
Well, that's just really encouraging to hear. Obviously, being a chiropractor, I can't advocate enough for just the importance of having a well-adjusted central nervous system. So you mentioned, getting those just maintenance wellness care, once every couple months or something like that. That is so, you're going to experience, benefits and value from that long term, that are just going to be so impactful, because no one's getting any younger. So, doing that preventative type care is really essential for not only people recovering, from non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, but for anyone really just trying to elevate their own health or either their family wellness. Now, would you say, Amy, there was like a specific turning point where you decided, hey, I want to get into health coaching, I want to become a certified health coach? Maybe tell us what that point was and then what you kind of went through to achieve that certification.
Okay, so after I lost the 62 pounds, after my 5-year journey, and it seemed like I had a lot of great things going in my life. I had a husband who loved me. I had at the time I had only one dog. Did not have any children quite yet, but that was on the horizon. And there was a part of me that was like, you know what? Like, I went through all this, and I feel like it needs to come to fruition somehow, and that, like my experience could be used to help others. And so I discovered the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, which is where I got my health coaching certification. And it was a 1-year program. It was really great. It taught you nutritional theories. It taught you coaching, and even taught you some business practices. So it was a 1-year program. And yeah, I got certified through there, and it happened to be that I got pregnant with my daughter during the program and gave birth to her soon after the program. So, but it all worked out really well. So yeah, I basically have a certification in certified holistic health coaching. And in addition, I also have a certification in personal training from the National Academy of Sports Medicine.
Oh, okay. Fantastic. Yeah. So do you then combine sort of the health coaching and you incorporate some of that personal training recommendations in there as well?
I do, especially since I feel like exercise and nutrition go together a lot, and I really felt like I needed to really hone in on my knowledge for exercise, because I feel like it's so integrative with nutrition that I felt like I couldn't be a better health coach if I didn't have that component. Although there are a lot of health coaches that don't, and that's totally great. It's just I felt like for me, where I needed to go with helping my clients, I needed to have that exercise knowledge too.
So you have this unique perspective. You have not only the experiences of, a chronic health condition that you've recovered from, but then you also pair that with, your unique perspective, your level of training and your certification that you can then provide to people who might be going through something similar. My question for you, Amy, is what does coaching with you look like? Do I have to be in California? Do I have to be in your area? Or can I work with you remotely if I live here in Michigan? How does that look?
So my business is completely online. So yeah, no, we can totally, coaching with me looks like Skype sessions every week. And it looks like email support, and it looks like just that I'm basically there with you, but virtually.
Fantastic. So basically, take me through the process essentially. Is there like an initial assessment? Are we making food and nutritional recommendations? Are you essentially, just making recommendations in the sense of, eat clean, eat organic? Or are you specifically saying, okay, I want you to go to the store and I want you to buy this, this, and this, like getting that detailed, or what does that look like?
So basically, part of my health coaching program, it advocates about individuality, where one man's food is another man's poison. So I use that perspective to kind of treat that with my clients, that everyone is different, everyone is at a different level, and everyone has like different dietary requirements. So sometimes when it's someone who may never cook for themselves, I may have to say, hey, so I need you to, I'm going to look up these stores in your area, and I need you to look up to see if you have any of these ingredients for this recipe I want you to try first before we even move forward. But I mainly I mainly try to just make it be pretty easy, like baby steps. I try to assess where they're at, try to assess their experiences, and try to just make it as easy as possible for them. Like, make very, very small, but very, very small adjustments, but that will make a big impact over the long run. Like, try to drink more water, try a new vegetable, try a new whole grain. I typically like to look at what they've eaten over the last 3 days, just to kind of so I get a sense of what are they putting in their body, and just kind of make it more like a conversation when I first meet them, just because, I mean, people are more than just meal plans. And sometimes when you're talking to them, they say things that they don't even realize they're feeling. So I just try to evaluate who they are as a person.
Fantastic. I love that personalized approach that you just described there. You mentioned things like bio-individuality, baby steps. Those are just such key critical components, in my opinion, for any kind of successful, changes, whether that be to your lifestyle or to your diet, your nutrition. So I can't say enough about, what Amy is able to do as a certified health coach. So very good with all that. Amy, the next thing I have for you is basically, are there any practical applications? Are there any self-care techniques, maybe like your top, 1 or 3 things that people could start doing, like right now as a result of listening to the episode here?
So one thing I really love to do every day, I stretch before going to bed. About 20 minutes. I take 20 minutes before I go to bed because I feel like I actually sleep better that way. So I recommend, if you can, try to stretch about 10 to 20 minutes before you go to bed. I mean, it doesn't have to be yoga, and it doesn't have to be anything a gymnast could do. It could just be simple, hamstring, hip stretches, just something where you are just loose enough to just fall right to sleep when you get to bed. So that's one tip. Another tip is an easy way to cut out excess sugars, calories is just to not drink soda anymore. And I remember that my husband, when I was still at my heaviest, he wanted to challenge himself, so he decided to not drink any soda, and so I did it with him, and I was amazed that I was able to lose a couple pounds, no problem, just by doing that one small little change. And so yeah, just try to. So and even then, I understand the soda addiction. I understand sometimes I do crave the carbonation. So I totally get it. So, if it's one of those things where, you have to transition instead of going cold turkey, that's totally fine. You can either, drink less soda and then drink more water, or you could drink more water and you can maybe try drinking less soda and try carbonated or mineral water in addition to that.
Yeah.
Something that will kind of help you ease into it. Because I understand how much that soda addiction can take a hold of you. So if you need to take baby steps, that's better. I mean, it's better to drink 1 cup of water and 2 sodas a day rather than no water at all. So so I advocate whatever baby steps you need to take, do it. Because I'm not here to hark on you if you can't go cold turkey, because I couldn't go cold turkey.
Right.
So I definitely don't expect that of my clients.
Right. And I think that makes you a good coach because, any good coach, in my opinion, is going to be someone that, practices what they preach, So if I'm going to tell someone, to do some at-home exercises to help with their low back pain, in collaboration with their chiropractic adjustments, I'm definitely going to make sure that I'm doing those same exercises just for maintenance and good spinal care. I mean, you mentioned stretching before bed. I love doing that myself, just to kind of release some of those fascial adhesions, just from our sedentary lifestyles. And I mean, even if you are active, if you're driving around, you're still sitting in your car. There's not a good way to, really move around in your car. So you're still getting a little bit of those restrictions just from the sitting that you essentially have to do. So I love the way you threw in that hydration component in there as well, getting rid of the soda, getting rid of the excess sugars, and then, like you said, baby stepping off that, not trying to go cold turkey. Now, Amy, do you have any other resources that you would like to equip our listeners with to elevate their family wellness? I know you have a couple on your website, but is there anything that really stands out kind of in your experiences that maybe helped you?
So for me, I remember using an online food journal to kind of like at the very end when I really needed to amp up my my weight loss, just so I could see what I was eating. Because I know it's scary. I honestly did not do it for the first three of the 5 years I lost weight. So I lost the first 30 pounds without even journaling my food. But eventually got to a point where I was like, okay, no, I just need to get down to writing it all down. So I like whether that's an app or an online site, like I would definitely like write down what you're eating so that way like you just write in your face. Because it's very easy to just be like, oh, it's about a serving. It's like, well, I guess what I was eating was maybe 2 servings. So it's definitely like little tweaks like that. And then also if you need to find a health coach in your area, there is a directory through my health coaching program, the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. They do have a directory through them to find a health coach in your area. And you can also Google like health coach and your area and see if anyone can reach out to you. And and like I said, my business is completely online. So if you need to reach out to me, I'm totally available.
Perfect. Yeah, I was just going to ask you, let's say someone's listening here, the families are listening, and they're resonating with your message. Where can people find more about you?
So my business is called The Vitality Geek. I am a geek for life. I love anything Joss Whedon and sci-fi.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Thank you. So I might as well be a geek for life, and that be my business. So you can find more about me at www.thevitalitygeek.com. And you can email me at amy.lanci@thevitalitygeek.com. I'm also on Twitter, so that's @thevitalitygeek. And yeah, they could totally email me. We can like schedule a phone call, or you could just tweet me. And also I just posted I just became a HuffingtonPost contributor too. So I also have my contact info through that article too on my profile.
And remember, we'll have a dedicated webpage with all the show notes we've mentioned here at MichiganFamilyWellness.com. Also, you can expand those show notes on your mobile device, and you can take advantage of those clickable links right now. Amy, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. You're a mother, you're a certified health coach, you're a wife, and I can't thank you enough for coming on the podcast today.
Oh, thank you. This was really fun. Thank you so much.
And remember, we can do far more together than we could ever do apart. Coming to you from beautiful Southeast Michigan, I'm your host, Dr. Kyle, and this is Michigan Family Wellness.
Now that you've been equipped with the latest in family wellness solutions, we want to encourage you to apply these strategies right away. But the thing is, there's still so much to learn. Connect with Dr. Wallner's Chiropractic and Nutrition Office by going to MichiganFamilyWellness.com and click the newsletter sign-up button to join the informative and supportive community of chiropractic wellness. You will also receive as a gift from Dr. Wallner a copy of Michigan Family Wellness Solutions, an invaluable resource containing dynamic tools to elevate family health and vitality. Michigan Family Wellness wants to thank you for being part of today's podcast. Please subscribe to our podcast on iTunes and give us a 5-star rating and review.